Welcome to Supply Circles, stories from the innovators, disruptors and improvers in supply chain management today. Brought to you by AI Group.
Welcome back, welcome. I'm James Scotland, coming to you today from the Yunganbar language region. And this is the Business Improvement Podcast that asks the question, how can we in Australia create supply chains that are resilient and sustainable at a time when we're implementing the 3 Ds: digitalisation, decarbonisation, and the diversification of our risk profile, especially in our extended supply chains. Each fortnight, I delve into different sections of the end-to-end supply chain, I chat with fascinating and interesting people, and we try to have some fun along the way. Now, as you know, as I just said, one of our 3 Ds is digitalisation, how to digitalise supply chains and your business operations for greater efficiency. So I'm pleased to say my guest is Tim Walmsley. We're going to talk about his new digital enterprise. Tim's been on the show before. If you want to hear our conversation on how to be successful at trade shows, head over to episode 17. But today we're not going to talk about face-to-face. We're going to talk about digital business. Tim is the founder and owner of several businesses, and I'm looking forward to catching up with him. Hey, Tim, episode 17 was a long time ago. Welcome back. How you been?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, James. It's been well.
To introduce yourself to the listeners again, you run a few businesses. What's the story? Who's Tim?
Yes, I'm Tim Walmsley. I'm a veteran. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called BenchOn. So BenchOn's an AI-powered industry platform that seamlessly connects the needs of project teams when they need people, products, and materials, and matches them directly to the suppliers who have what they need when they need it, all while providing data intelligence on the depth of industry. So that's our business, and that's what keeps me busy most days.
How did you get into that? Are you an IT nerd?
Absolutely not. I was an artillery major. Like, I knew nothing about tech. I got out into industry after serving 13 years, and my time in industry, I think when you come out of defense, you look at things with a new mindset and a new angle. And I just saw huge amounts of problems in industry and the supply chains and how businesses connect and how they manage the peaks and troughs of industry. And came up with the idea of connecting all that underutilized resources and making sure businesses linked up together better. And so I sold my house and went all in and hired a bunch of people who are way smarter than me to actually build and maintain this system. I just sort of come up with the ideas.
Wow. So it's a business matching or a skills matching service.
Well, yeah, so definitely, business matching. We're that first line of market canvassing and finding what you need in businesses. So it's not just workforce, even though that's what makes us unique. We have workforce, but also the supply chain matching as well for products, services, manufacturing, materials. So really, in one system, you just put out there all the things that your business needs, and the AI algorithm will intelligently match them directly to the businesses in the best spot with those resources available that meet all your criteria so that you can quickly onboard them and get them on to your project.
Is this a new idea? Is this leading edge?
It is the way that we're doing it. So, for a few decades now, there's been systems that are more database centric. They're still very manual, like people searching databases to find companies. What we found is they're still relying on what we call like hope and wait systems, where a company has to put up a project page. They have to promote their tenders online for everyone to see. The suppliers have to firstly know that project's on. They have to be able to find out where that project page is, and then they have to register in time to register their interest on that project page. And that's why we call it hope and wait. You're hoping the right businesses see what you need online. You hope that they find it, and then you wait a huge amount of time so that you can collect up all of those stray businesses and try and find the one business you need. And it's just too inefficient. We're in a time now where the government's turned around and said we need to surge, particularly in defense. We need to surge industry capability, sometimes within a year's notice, to build advanced defense capability to meet the new and existing threats. So for an industry to be left behind to use these hope and wait systems, it's just too inefficient. It's too slow. and we need to be running on all cylinders here in Australia. So that's why we've designed this AI-powered system that really just takes all of the effort out of it and now maximizes the use of all aspects of industry, not just the ones you know about.
So are you talking about your legacy business, or is this the new one that you're talking about now specifically?
Well, the new one is part of BenchOn. It's a portal on BenchOn. So BenchOn builds portals. Historically, we build government industry portals, and we build portals for large enterprise so that they can manage all of their sourcing requirements for their projects. And an SME gets one BenchOn profile, and they go into our portal marketplace, and they choose whichever portals they want to be a part of to win work. The new portal is specifically designed for defence industry, and it's not owned by any one company, or it's not owned by the government. This is a portal by industry for industry to allow any business to be able to supply and source people, products, materials whenever they need it on demand. And it's called the Australian Digital Defence Industry Matrix, or ADDIM, ADDIM. And what makes that unique is that you don't have to be a defence prime. You don't have to be a government project team. You can be a small business that is looking for an innovative partner. You can be a medium-sized business that's short on 2 or 3 skill sets and a steel fabrication partner. And you can find all of those things on demand whenever you need it. And at the same time, you can jump in and see data insights about the depth of industry. Where are the capabilities? Where are the workforce? Where are the skill sets? Let's map that out first. Find the gaps, and now how do I position my business into those gaps? How do I give myself the best chance of success? And that's with that information at your fingertips, which they've never had before. Industry has, not had that level of analysis on what's going on in industry and where things are located before. That's always been held by the government. The governments need that information to make the right decision, but we're at a point now where government's looking after itself. We now need to look after industry, and how do we help them to become resilient and strong and connected?
Yeah. So it's more than defence. There's a number of different industries interested in what you're doing and trying to get this digital connection.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in transport and main roads. We're in manufacturing. We support local councils to connect up the region within that council, the industry body in that region. We support global businesses where, pretty much any way that we can connect up industry, we're doing that. And that's not just in defence, even though we started in defence, because obviously as a veteran, that was where my heart lay, and that's my passion. But the technology works so well that other industries and state governments are now picking that up and looking at ways that they can map out industry and then further connect the local businesses.
Well, that's the ad. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah.
I guess to finish off the ad, is it like a mobile platform as well? Can people do it on their phone or their iPad, or is it all computer based, or what's the story?
Yeah. So to a point, you can see all of your notifications on your phone. You can log in and see the activity. If you're responding to a tender or an expression of interest, or putting forward an employee profile for a workforce request, that's best done on your laptop or on a web-based system. So, we are building a better way for people to access it on mobile soon, but that's not out yet.
Yeah, okay. All right. Hey, so let's talk about digitalising businesses. I mean, this is the key part of the supply chain, of the supply circles. How did you go about setting that up? How did you go about figuring out, all right, I can see a need in the market and I think it should be digital based. What's the next step? How do you digitalise a business?
Yeah, well, actually, it was interesting. My first idea was about underutilized workforce. So we started off in matching business to business workforces, and this is where the name came from, BenchOn. When you've got people on the bench, there were other companies that didn't have enough people. So the system intelligently matched them together so that one company could outsource or second their employees to projects to help the other business. I systems engineered the entire platform out, and when you're really passionate about these things, you end up designing the gold-plated solution. I took that to a software house to build it, and they told me it was going to cost $1 million, and that was in 2015. And an ex-army major, I didn't really have $1 million sitting in the bank. And the guy who was mentoring me at the time sort of laughed at me when I asked him for $1 million. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and I ended up going to a defense accelerator. A startup accelerator called Blue Chili. It was run by an ex-defense person, Sebastian Eckersley Maslin, and that's why I was drawn to it, because I thought, well, he knows me and knows the culture. They helped me break that gold-plated solution down to a minimum viable product. What was the bare minimum I needed to build in order to get out into industry, test my assumptions, test my hypothesis, test the system, and then continue to build on it over time. And that's called the lean startup approach. And that's what we employed. So we spent a small amount of money building a test system, trialed it out in industry, and then continued to modify, evolve, pivot based on the needs of industry and what we were seeing at the time. So we quickly grew from a system that matched any business together based on workforce to then creating an industry portal for workforce so that any company could tap into the workforce of thousands of companies. And then we added in supply chain tendering and expressions of interest based on what our big global clients were asking for. So now we had both those sides. We had products, materials, and workforce. And then we realized the data that we were capturing, and we thought, well, that'll help industry. So we built in a business intelligence dashboard that analyzed the depth of capability and then what all the activity was on the system. So you can see it's an evolving thing. You can never just go, here's my idea, I'm going to build it straight out and it's just going to work. It's always going to break. People are always going to do things that you don't expect. I've got so many examples of people doing things that just seem insane, but they're out there and they do those things with digital systems. So you've got to continually grow it over time. And that's how we sort of got to where we are.
Was it your software developers that are doing crazy stuff, or your competitors, or who's doing the crazy stuff?
The users actually.
Customers. Oh no! Oh god!
Yeah. No, there's one of my favorite photos is on a university campus where it's got the paths that intersect at right angles. With grass in the middle, and it goes, that's what the engineers plan. And then there's a path through the grass, like a dirt path through the grass that just cuts the corner. Yeah. And it goes, that's what users will do, and that is exactly right. Like, so unless you are continually going to your users and going, how's it going? What do you like? What don't you like? It's that's the only way you can build a system properly.
Yeah, design-led, what is it called?
Customer-led, experience-led, customer experience-led
design. Yeah, like just really make sure that it's being used for what you think it's being used for. We had a guy who is an expert in this who now runs Blundstone Boots in Tasmania, and they did that globally, and they discovered that the work boots in Australia, the OH&S type boots that they have in Australia, were being used as fashion in Europe. And he went, wow. Who knew? Yeah, and you'd never know except you follow the trail. You went back to the user and said, "What are you doing?" So they're being used by being stereotypical 40-year-old tradies in mine sites in Australia and 18-year-old girls in Germany. It's just insane. But they found it, and now it's a global brand, and it's massive. Because they went for how are you actually using the product. Yeah, good lesson.
Yeah, and that's right. And that's why our government portals became the way that they were, because we realized the government has its own way of sourcing. They have their Oz tenders and all of those sort of mandated systems they have to use. So trying to get the government to source through a new platform is insane. But what we found is they were using our portal to map out industry, one, to give them intelligence, but also to empower the contractors that won their projects to engage with local industry. So their real aim here was, how do I give the tier ones the ability to maximize engaging local small business first, and not just relying on their international supply chains that they've been using over the years. So that was a different take on our portal than what the enterprises were using, which was just to facilitate what they needed for their projects. So we've had to be a bit flexible in terms of the configurations and the systems that we've put in place.
Didn't the tier ones just say, "Oh, we've got our own portal. It's okay. We've got a supplier portal. We're okay, Tim. Thanks very much."
Yeah, so there's a lot, and I guess that's the problem. An average small business has to be registered on 14 or 15 different portals. Each big corporation has their own. Here's our supplier portal, register there, and it does all the onboarding and everything else. Another prime has a completely different system. Businesses don't have the time to go and register with every single large business and fill out hours of paperwork each time with not even knowing whether they're going to win work yet. What we are is we're in that shop front phase. This is the first step in canvassing industry and saying, okay, who's got what we need? And then in one system across all of industry, you can go, okay, I've found who I need. I've shortlisted them down. Now let's put them into our own internal systems, and they'll go through the effort of filling out all of our forms and getting onboarded. But they know that they've been shortlisted down. They know that we're interested in what we do, not just, sign up. There is no prime out there that has full coverage of the entire industry. There are some primes that have very strong, depth in the companies that they've got on their supply chain. I think BAE Systems, for example, has about 1,600 companies, I think, from the last article I saw of theirs. So that's a lot in comparison to others. But there's, 5,500 companies in defense industry. So what new and latent capability is out there that they don't know about? What, better value for money solutions are out there that they don't know about? And that's where we fit in, is that, okay, let's cast the net wide, let's see what's out there, and then bring them into our more detailed systems.
If I put my details on your portal, if I give you my details, sign up or register, whatever the terminology is, how do I know it's safe? How are you keeping it safe?
Yeah, we've got quite a high level of cybersecurity on our system, and that's
the big challenge, isn't it? That's the massive challenge.
Yeah. And the more companies you get on there, the more cybersecurity you need. And the reason we went for that was obviously because we started off in defense, but it now applies to the whole system. But we're also just really concerned about the lack of cybersecurity on a number of systems out there that would just, showcasing company information or project information to anybody who bothered to look at that website or bothered to log into that website. And I believe information security is important not only for the suppliers, but also for the project teams as well, who don't want their competitors and every man and their dog knowing what they're looking for, what they're doing, what steps they're taking. And so that's why our system is designed that way. You can't log into BenchOn and see all of the tenders and all of the projects that are on there. You actually have to have it intelligently matched to your company based on your profile and what you do. And then you can see that opportunity. That also saves time for everyone as well, because companies aren't responding to opportunities that they have no business responding to just to see if they can land something, So it saves a lot of time. There's less responses, but those responses they do get are more accurate.
Yeah, it's a really big issue, cyber, isn't it? You must spend lots of time. Our CEO says it's the one thing that keeps him awake at night is this whole cyber security. Actually, I'll make a confession. Yesterday, we do a lot of cybersecurity training because we have connections all around the world, and so there's a lot of people at AI Group, and we're all connected around the world, and so there's a lot going on. So we do a lot of training on making sure that our staff are well trained to secure. They know what they're doing, because that's where the weakness in any system is, the staff. So yesterday, I got an email from our IT people. Saying that there's a new policy out about how you can watch the Olympics during working hours. And I was sort of half asleep, and I thought, well, what's this? And it says, click here to find out the policy. So I did. No. So I did, and then it came up saying, "Oops, this was a fake thing. Pay more attention next time, James." And it was
so it was a test. Good on him.
It was from our IT thing, but the point was, as you probably recognise, and I didn't, was the Olympics are in European time, so it's on at night. And why would we have that when I work from home anyway? I mean, it was just a dumb idea, but without thinking, I clicked on it. And this is one of the issues for cyber, isn't it? You got to just set it up for the dumbest people like me, as well as making sure it's internationally secure. There's a lot going on. How do you stay on top of all of that, Tim?
Well, we train our technicians or, our developers on cybersecurity. We have automated monitoring systems that monitor our current system and tell us when anything untoward is happening. We've also got systems in place so that as we build code, we have AI that is testing our code to make sure that it's not going to create any gaps once we deploy it.
So it's sort of built with the idea of security in mind.
Yeah, well, it has to be. I mean, not that we don't have any, classified information on our system. We're not capturing your financials or anything like that. It's just about giving you peace of mind that, your company profile, which just explains what you do and the systems you have in place and the people you have and where you operate, is, not going to become a target. We don't keep we don't keep credit card information or anything like that, but it's still nice to know that your information is going to be protected.
Oh, I thought I gave you my bank account details, didn't
I? Yeah. That was for me speaking nice things about you the other day,
yeah. We should take a break. This is interesting. Come back, let's talk about AI and stuff like that. Before we go, how often do you get told that joke from Good Morning Vietnam, when Krakow sort of said, shout out to Tim, the artillery officer. It doesn't matter what you say to him, you just have to say it very loud.
Well, I've never been accused of being a quiet talker, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
I know some artillerymen, and they are, none of them are quiet little things. You always got to say it loud. All right, we'll come back in a minute and talk about AI and other stuff.
The largest Australian workplace changes in over a decade
Underpaying workers could result in crippling fines.
There'll be new rules about when a casual employee has the right
employees will have the right to disconnect.
Workplace laws are changing. Pay attention or pay the price. Safeguard your business with Australian Industry Group. The legal experts at Australian Industry Group will help you navigate the new legislation and prepare your business for the changes. Become a member today at aigroup.com.au.
So, Tim, I'm a real person. You're a real person, kind of. Let's talk about AI. It's a big thing. Everyone's talking about it, and I think most people are trying to come to grips with what it means for their business, how it can work in their business. You've been dealing with it for a while. What's your approach? How did you approach it, and how do you use it?
Yeah, it's one of those things that became a bit of a buzzword, 10 years ago, and every new company was saying that they had AI. For those who don't know a lot about it, AI can be anything from, an algorithm type decision-making system right through to, what you see on the TV, which is that scary robot head that has a conversation with you, and everything in between.
And that sort of annoying voice on the bank website that says, "Can I help you?"
The chatbots and everything else. And so AI is a broad concept. But what we did is we employed AI and machine learning into our platform because of the complexity of the issues we were trying to solve. Let's think about skill sets, for example. If you ask one person what their job title is, what their main skill set is, and then you ask someone who does the exact same job in a different industry the same question, they will undoubtedly say something different. They will have a different name for what they do.
Yeah, it's true.
Think about it too. The same thing in terms of product management. Product manager in finance is someone who manages a product like a credit card product or a home loan product. And you got a product manager in IT is someone who's managing a product like your platform. And they're a completely different job, but they're both called product managers. So how do you design a system where someone goes, I'm looking for a product manager in Brisbane for 3 months to help me with this task? How do you design a system that is not going to just spread that to all of the wrong areas and cause a lot of unnecessary work for people? Instead of narrowing it down and going, actually, I'm an intelligence system who understands that the context is this is an IT system, this is what you're trying to build. And so therefore that skill set applies to these areas. And I can now extrapolate out what the other skill sets might be that would attract the right person to this role. And I'm going to send it to those companies who have those people. So that's one example of why we brought AI and machine learning in, to say, okay, let's the machine learning particularly we brought in because industry evolved. People change. They there's new requirements, there's new products, there's new ways of using things. So we needed to let industry lead us in the right direction so that we knew where the changes were before they were actually announced in the papers or announced on social media. It was when the way people were using whatever products or materials or services or skill sets. We look at the way people are doing it, and then when somebody else comes in to do something similar, we can recommend to them and say, do you mean this? Because this is what we've seen before in industry, and they can either take that or not. And over time, the system gets much smarter. But what people don't understand is how much time it takes to train a system to be intelligent, so that it can make really good decisions. You have to push a huge amount of data through the system over a long period of time and continue to test and adjust to make sure that it is making the best decisions. And that's something that people often overlook. If you see a company that says, we've got advanced AI and machine learning and they've been going for a few months, what they have is they have the system in place to do that, but they haven't trained that system to be intelligent yet. So that takes a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good tip, because I just think that's a great tip. It takes a while to learn to teach a system. It's got to learn as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why we've been on this journey for a long time. I would say we started implementing AI in probably 2018 was when we first started, and then we've been building and improving over time as we go along. So the more companies that use it, the more sourcing we get through it, the more people engage with the portal, the smarter it gets and the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, we talked to a guy from the AI industry a while ago, and he was saying that the AI that we've got now, it's a really bad term, he doesn't like it, but the artificial intelligence or the machine learning that we've got now will be nothing like what we have in 10 years' time, because it will have developed so well. So incredibly well.
It's evolving all the time, and it's doing things that we never expected. Just look at ChatGPT. How quickly that came into our society and all of a sudden just morphed so many things in our world. And it's only getting smarter each day, and so we're all struggling to keep up with it. So we actually implemented a ChatGPT level of AI into the system to help people fill out those forms. So you can literally put in your company name, your company website, your ABN, and then you can say, Benchon's AI system, write my company description. And it'll write a description based on the type of company you are, what things you do, and it'll give you a generic sort of example of what you can do. And then you just go in and just modify slightly and you're done. So that's the exciting things. Like, that's the stuff I love putting into the system, to just see what it can do, see how it helps people, see how the system can recommend skill sets to a company based on what they think that company might be working on. It's exciting times.
Does that mean you have to keep expanding your system's width or size, or how does that work for you? That must take a fair bit of investment just to keep up to date with the growth.
Yeah, well, definitely. That's one thing my CTO is always on about, and always making sure that we maximize the size of our databases and the processing power of our systems to make sure that it is seamless, so that that it doesn't suddenly break down on you or can't tolerate the number of companies, because we've got thousands of companies using this portal or this platform every day. So we need to make sure that it's a good ongoing experience. But we use systems that scale up, scale down, depending on how we need it. And to this point, it hasn't had an issue so far.
Would that be something that you would recommend to someone who's trying to get into a SaaS type setup?
Yeah,
just find a way that's very flexible.
Yeah, you can. And look, as much as I run a tech company, my CTO is probably going to be listening to this, going, "What is he saying? You're saying the wrong things," or whatever. But as a layman, this is how I understand it. Where you have
you're going to get into trouble here.
Yeah,
okay.
That's where I'm going to get into trouble. I know. Using systems like Azure or AWS, where they have servers that are in your region, in your location, you can have them set to auto scale. So we use Azure for our servers, and they automatically scale up depending on our usage. So, if we're having a very busy period, if all of a sudden there's a major project going on and thousands of companies are all registering at the one time and there's, hundreds of tenders going on, the servers will scale to accommodate that. And we just pay for it as we need it. So look at that.
Because it's in your industry, it's time critical. You can't afford to be down. You make money by being up, all the kind of stuff. It's you just need that reliable platform. That's fascinating. Yeah. But many businesses, including ours, have moved away from emails because of the dumb stuff, like I mentioned before. And we work on internal messaging systems, and businesses are using portals. Are portals the way of the future, do you think? What I'm saying is emails are becoming like faxes. To stop using them soon. Is it going to be portals, or what's the future going to look like, do you think?
Yeah. I don't think emails will get phased out as such. We still use emails to bring people's attention back to the portals to say, hey, look, especially for important things like this, you don't want to miss out on a $100 million tender because you didn't log into the portal that week, so we have to bring people's attention back to it. But I think things will go more mobile, and I think, text messages or app notifications and things like that will start to become more of the norm. But I agree. I think portals are the way of the future. Okay. There's obviously different. When we're talking about the definition of a portal, I just saw the other day that an organisation announced, we've got this fabulous new portal, and then I logged into it, and it was literally an Excel spreadsheet on a web page. And you go, that's not a portal. Like, a web page is not a portal. A portal has to have that, the security. Once you get inside, there's the advanced functionality that achieves the intent of the system. And gives you all of the features and benefits of an advanced AI portal, which I think is where we need to be heading. And then transitioning that into a more mobile environment and making sure that people are notified on the go wherever they are, so that they can keep business going even while they're running their busy lives.
As with all these things, don't hijack the word. A portal means something. Just, don't hijack the word again, like you have with many other things.
Yeah, that's why we're very, very, we're very specific to say BenchOn is the platform, and on our platform we host a number of portals, and those portals take you to an instance, which is that company's supply chain industry portal, or that government's industry portal, or the Australian Digital Defence Industry Matrix portal, and it allows you to participate in different areas. Think about it, even back to the sci-fi, a portal takes you to somewhere where where there's an adventure to be had. So, think of it that way.
Keep in mind your sci-fi training when you were a child. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You've just been in England. What did you learn about the tech industry there, or particularly the supplier engagement tech industry?
Well, I can tell you the tech industry in the innovation industry in London particularly, which is where we went to London Tech Week, is exploding. There are unicorn companies, and that's, companies valued over $1 billion. So many of them coming out of that sector. There's so much investment into it. There's so much advanced technology being released, particularly around AI, machine learning. So it was a really exciting space. We went over there to find out, obviously, what was going on in the UK and how they were going. For the supply chain side, we found that they didn't really have anything like what we're providing in terms of that market canvassing and business matching systems. They are still using those hope and wait style tendering systems. But we went over really to test the waters in regards to AUKUS. And we've seen the UK government as well as the US Ministry of Defence all saying that we understand that in this arrangement, and particularly even just going forward, all of our three countries' defence industries don't have what we need in order to achieve everything that we want to achieve, and we're going to have to rely on our allies. But there's nothing that's currently allowing us to do that except putting a request in to another country's government and saying, hey, look, we're looking for these things. What have you got? And so we've been proposing a system based off ADAM, the Digital Defence Industry Matrix, where we place a portal here in Australia that maps out and connects Australian industry. We put a portal into the UK to map out and connect UK industry, and the same for the US. and then allow all of those three portals to connect together to release export opportunities or import opportunities to each other's defense industries. And that way we can really map out, each country will know exactly what their gaps are. And then when they do find a gap, they can then release a request to fill that gap from our allies in the AUKUS system. And it was a really exciting week with a lot of great conversations with Ministry of Defence representatives. And, the feedback was that this is a problem they've been trying to solve, and this seems like a very elegant solution. So we're pursuing a number of conversations in that area to see how we can bring AUKUS up to where it needs to be.
Sounds like you're saying that the tech industry in London in particular is exploding, but there's still opportunities and there's still gaps that Australian businesses could address. Good luck with that.
Well, yeah. Even though innovation explodes, there's always gaps. There's always things that people don't look at. And that's in those areas where people, don't like change, or they're happy with the way things have always been done. Like you look at it here in Australia, the way that defence industry is connected together really hasn't evolved over the last probably 40 years. We've still been doing things the same way. And now that we've got this catalyst of the Defence Strategic Review, this need to surge and the speed to capability requirement, we can't keep doing things the way that we've always been doing them. So innovation is now essential. And that's why it's come along, is because that essential nature of, okay, we have to innovate, we have to get better. And so that's what I saw in London, is those areas where it is essential, where we need to improve, that's where the greatest innovation's happening.
That's great, and I appreciate you coming on to talk to us about it, because the whole thesis of this podcast is to say we need to digitalise and decarbonise, and innovation is the way that you do that. We can't keep doing it the same way, and supply chains in particular have to digitalise. So it's good to hear your thoughts, giving us some real nuggets there to think about and take away. We've been running this for about 10 years now, or maybe more. What have you learned? I'm not sure whether or not to ask you what have you learned or what do you think is going. So pick up whichever one you want, and give me some wise words to finish.
What have I learned? One thing is it will always take longer than you think. That was, whether you're a startup
That's
or
true.
Whether you're a company that wants to implement digitalisation. You get the idea, you go, this is fantastic. It's just going to be implemented, and it's never that way. The biggest part is stakeholder buy-in. My wife's a big one on that, stakeholder buy-in. Doesn't matter what you do, you have to have stakeholder buy-in. And when you're releasing new platforms or digitized supply chain platforms, it's the clients, it's the suppliers, it's the users, it's the government. Like, get all of that stakeholder buy-in, and you'll get a much easier release of any new system. That's one point, I guess. But there's lots to be learned over almost a decade of running a new company.
And the other big lesson is happy wife, happy life.
Yes, exactly. But that's a valid point. I couldn't have started BenchOn and got it to where it is unless I had the buy-in of my family to support you through the hard times, because we're like every other business. We have peaks and troughs, and sometimes those troughs are really, really crippling. So you've got to have the support of your family so that they know why you're doing it. Yeah. In my earlier years, I saw, when I was helping businesses to grow, I saw a lot of businesses where the owner of the business had ended up with a broken family because they spent too much time worrying about the growth and not enough worrying about home. You got to get it. You got to get the balance right and make sure they're involved and part of it. So good on you. Yeah.
And you have a fine partner there too, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you. I'll let her know you said that.
Thanks. Well, all the best. I hope it goes well. Thank you so much for everything, and good luck in the future. Good luck with your international discussions.
Yeah, thank you. And please, all the listeners, if you're in defence industry or looking to get into it, please go to benchon.com/ADDIM and go have a look at the Australian Digital Defence Industry Matrix and how you can get involved for free and be connected to defence projects.
And the other thing that you constantly teach us is never let a chance go by. Always plug the
Always hustle.
Well done, my friend. All right, well, that's it for another episode of Supply Circles. Thanks again to everyone for listening, and thank you for your feedback. If you have any feedback on today's interview with Tim, or ideas for the show, or just want to give me some feedback, hit me up at james.scotland@aigroup.com.au or head over to my LinkedIn page. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back in a fortnight with more business improvement insights into the keys to building sustainable supply chains. Thanks for joining me. This is Supply Circles. I'm James Scotland. Bye for now.